Good afternoon, my YouTube brethren. Thank you so much for joining us today. I am Pastor Pinewood, and what you're looking at right now is this is the beginning of our market garden / farm that we have established here in our little small town in the Texas Panhandle. I took over a church as the senior pastor in October, and one of the questions that we had throughout the winter is how do we reach people outside of the walls? So we take care of the folks that come to church every Sunday. How do we reach those people that maybe don't believe, that don't come to church, and that will never get a chance to interact with them if we don't reach out and start thinking outside of the walls of the church. So what are some things that we could do? And the church happens to sit on a pretty large property, about 2 acres, and there's 1 1/3 acre that is just grass. There's nothing being done with it. We can't build on it because of certain easements and some other issues. So we have these resources, we have this stuff, and we have this land. And so one of the things that we came up with was we'll just make a small garden. And then that idea in my mind grew to like a market garden where we could actually go to farmers markets and sell produce and all this and that. And then from there it's kind of branched out and it's become more of a small farm. And we're gonna have animals and rabbits and vermicompost and all kinds of stuff. And one of the reasons that I came to that conclusion was there's a Facebook page, and it's called Market Gardeners, something like that. There's just all kinds of people, like 30,000 members, 35,000 members, and they just have somebody will post a problem and then they help them through that problem. And there's all kinds of wonderful information, and the people are so helpful. There's a couple of knuckleheads, but for the most part, everybody is so helpful and kind and friendly. And it really gave me the courage to step out and to do something a little bit unorthodox, something that I don't know a whole lot about. As far as my background goes in this, my grandfather on my mom's side was a farmer, and he was a conventional farmer, and he was a wonderful salt of the earth type person, and I always looked up to him, and I always wanted to live a lifestyle like his. He was a quiet man, and he just seemed to thoroughly enjoy what he did. He enjoyed his family, and he enjoyed his work, and I've always wanted to be like him. My parents owned a nursery business when I was a young man. So until I was about 15, 16, my parents owned a feed store, and we sold plants and garden stuff and trees and feed supplies. I mean, I've been in the agricultural business for almost all my life, especially the formative years, going up through 15. So I have a little bit of experience, and because our church is a small church and it's an aging population as far as our members go, this is kind of going to be a one-man show. So what I'm going to show you today is I'm going to show you what we have right now going, what we're working with, the steps we've taken to get where we are, and I need some help. I want some help from you guys as we make videos in the future, and I'm going to continue to make garden videos. I will need some answers to questions that I'm going to have. And so I appreciate you tuning in. I would appreciate it if you would subscribe or at least keep up with the new videos in some form or fashion. Check back with us. I'll try to post them on Facebook on my page. You can look up Fairlane's Farms, and that I'll post all that stuff there. So if you would help me, I would very greatly appreciate it. So let me take you around and I'll show you what we've got. It is windy today, so if there's a little wind noise, I apologize for that. But let me show you around, and then I'll have some questions at the very end of the video. One of the first things I'll show you is I've got some plants outside hardening off, and these have been hardening off for about a week and a half, and they are going to be planted tomorrow and Saturday. And so all these things are going to go in the ground. I've got some tomatoes and some peppers that need a little bit more growing out, so I'll probably keep those in the grow room. But the wind is blowing like crazy today, so you can tell I've had to get creative. And so I got a south wind that's blowing out here towards the left-hand side, and so that table helped kind of block everything. But I got all kinds of good stuff, tomatoes and peppers and cucumbers and squashes and okra, and I'm really excited to get this stuff out in the field. And like I said, it's been hardening off for about a week and a half, and it's really doing well. I haven't had any sunspots come up or any problems, so I'm pleased with the way the hardening off has gone. And for my first year doing it, I'm quite proud of myself. Well, this is our grow room, and it's a mess at the moment. There's all kinds of stuff on the floor, so I won't show you too much about it. But we got these shelves, and I know they're wood, and some people said not to get wooden shelves because they hold moisture, and there's a bunch of issues and mold and blah, blah, blah. We live in a very dry climate, and so I don't think I'm going to have to worry about humidity too much. I've got a heater in here. We grew microgreens starting all the way back in February, and we sold some, and I ate a bunch. And also I've been growing wheatgrass for our animal fodder systems. And so we have rabbits and quail and chickens and ducks, and they'll all eat that wheatgrass fodder, so I've been doing that as well. Right now, because we just haven't sold very much and I don't have a lot of things going, I just have one shelf with lights. I've got a full spectrum, one light with full spectrum, and then also just one with a plain LED white light. But I'll be doing some other videos in here for now. We had an empty room, and they said you can do whatever you want in there, and I needed kind of a greenhouse effect, and so this is what I chose to do for now. We are going to be getting a greenhouse in the fall, and so that's going to be a different option next year. Hopefully we won't be in here and we can be outside. But this is the grow room, and it's seen a lot of action over the last couple of months, and it's been very productive, and I've learned a whole bunch just getting in here and doing some of it. So that's the grow room. Let me know what you think about the wooden shelves, if that will work, if it's something I'm going to have problems with in the future. I haven't had any problems with them right now. The humidity stays well below 40%, even whenever I'm watering and got the heat going and all that. So I don't think it's going to be an issue, but let me know in the comments what you think. Well, here is the meat and potatoes of what we're working with outside, and unfortunately this year, because we didn't have the funds or the time to get a greenhouse set up this year, everything's going to have to be outside, and it's going to be a huge learning curve. And I hope that I actually can produce some vegetables for folks to eat, because I'm a little nervous about it. Tomorrow we're putting up a deer resistant fence. We've got a creek that runs to the bottom of our property, and we've got deer and turkeys and predators and raccoons and all kinds of stuff that'll come in and eat our vegetables. So we're going to have to come up with a workaround. I think I've got an idea about how to make one fairly cheap, but I'll make a video about that, because I'd like to know, I'd like to have your input on what you think. But I've got 100 foot by 100 foot carved out, and so that gives us approximately 40 beds, and they're 50-foot beds with 30-inch wide, 50-foot long. And so I've got one here and then starting one on the other. Right now I've only got about 3 things planted. I've got my rescue onions. I'll have to tell you about that sometime. It was pretty interesting earlier this spring what happened. And to get it to this point was kind of arduous. So we have a couple of problems. The biggest problem is we're working on an existing field that had Bermuda grass. And if you've ever messed with Bermuda grass at all, you know how difficult it is to eradicate, even conventionally with pesticide, or excuse me, with herbicides and all kinds of stuff. It's still very difficult to kill it off. So here's what we did at the very beginning. I mapped out the space that I wanted this garden to set in, and I rented a little bobcat. It was a very small little bobcat, and it had a tiller attachment and it had a flat bucket. And unfortunately, even though I did use the tiller and I went over it several times, it just wasn't heavy duty enough to really get down into the soil and break it up like I needed it to do. So a guy in the church has a tractor, a small tractor with a small disc, and so he brought that, and so I disced it. And this was early February, so the ground was still dormant. After I had disked everything, and I'd gone over it several times in several different directions, I got the ground broken up fairly good. I started working on my rows. So I came in with stakes and a little bit of string to make sure they were straight, and I started mapping these things out. So what I've tried to do was to get all of the junk out, all of the kind of the top layer of grass and weeds and all that good stuff out, and I did that by raking it, rototilling it, raking it again, rototilling it again, raking it, and then establishing the bed. And so every time that I rototilled, I would bring up more of that Bermuda grass. I guess it's a rhizoid of some sort, and more would come up. So every time I did it, I would get more out of there until I was left with fairly, I would say a fairly sterile bed. I'm sure I'm still going to battle the Bermuda grass. That's just going to be something I'm going to deal with probably for the first couple of years. But that was the process that we took. Well, the next thing that we kind of ran into was the issue of our dirt, and we don't have just wonderful soil, so we know we're going to have to build up our soil, and so buying compost is expensive, and so we had several ideas and several things that we could do, and several things that we thought about, but somebody really stepped up in our community. There's a gentleman, and his company name is Amigos Compost, and I gave him a call just reaching out to see what he would charge us for a bigger load, maybe half a semi or something like that. And he said, well, just give me your address and I'll swing some by. And he didn't give me any prices. I figured he'd send us an invoice and blah, blah, blah. And he came by with a semi. And in literally 2 days, I called him. I told him our problem. I told him the needs that we had. The next day, he showed up with a semi full of organic, top quality, finished compost. And he just dumped it on the property. I was so blown away. And that was the first instance of somebody in our community just hearing what we're doing and immediately stepping up and helping us. I was so blown away by his, and just the willingness to help somebody with a problem. Whenever it just blew me away. And several things have happened since then in similar fashion. And I'm astounded by our community that they don't know me, they don't know anything about what we're doing. All that I've had is kind of a brief conversation, and several of them have stepped up to help in amazing ways. And I'm so thankful for them. And I'm going to continue to give them shout outs every time I get a chance on a video. So we got the compost, and I got a wheelbarrow, and I just started pouring the rows with compost and flattening it out. And so after all the raking and all that, we got a kind of a flat, sterile bed, and then I just put compost down and flattened all that out, and then I covered it after a little while, keep seeds from blowing in and that sort of thing. And then in the middle, because I don't have access to a bulk supply of wood chips at the moment, I just went and bought some wood chips from Walmart and put those in the rows to help the weeds and the grass to keep from coming back. So our goal with the Bermuda grass is to smother it and cover it, and that's what we're going to try to do as we advance our garden the next week starting tomorrow. So I'll bring you guys along with that, and I'll let you know throughout the summer how our battle with the Bermuda grass goes, because I know it's going to be an issue. So let me show you some of the other things we got. So you can see our garden here, 100 foot by 100 foot approximately, and only half of it I've been messing with. The other half I have to get to, and I'll be sure to make a video of that. But our property is a full acre in this bottom, and it goes all the way to the road. And so from here we'll run our chickens and our quail and our rabbits all on this pasture. So we'll have, this year we're only getting laying hens. I'm not going to do any meat chickens this year. That'll be something in the future that we will get. But we'll have chickens and quail and rabbits all on this 1 acre. And also on the other side of the church in the front, there's a full 3rd acre of property that we can also utilize in the future. But for now, for this year, this is going to be plenty for us to progressively move our chickens and rabbits and quail and all that good stuff on pasture, and I'll let you know how that all goes. There is our finished compost pile that was delivered. I've already started diving into that and getting some of these beds made, but that will probably be halved by tomorrow as we get these beds laid out. Somebody dropped off this very large bale of straw, and we will be using that on top of beds to help cover and smother the Bermuda grass and also help retain moisture in certain crops. That's something that we have to work with. I did have a big tarp that I put down, and I don't have time to smother everything out with the tarp. I'll mention that in another video as we go forward. Also have this is the edge of our property over here. There's a fence line, and it leads down to a creek, and this is the start of our compost here on site. So we'll bring in compost, but also we'll have a large compost bin system down here, and that's the start. And that pile right there, it doesn't look that big, but it's probably 5 foot by 3 foot tall. It's a pretty big pile, and that is, at the moment, that is all the Bermuda grass rhizoids that we took out of the garden to get it started, and that's only about probably less than half of the garden itself. So there was a ton of Bermuda grass that we hauled out. We're going to compost all of that, and it will be right over there on that side of the property. So that's it. That's the farm. That's what we have to work with, and I'm super excited to get started. So I do need something from you, and especially you guys that are farmers, that are market gardeners, that really know what you're doing. I'll be honest with you, I kind of sort of know what to do. I have no idea what I'm really doing. So if there's some things that I'm not thinking about, if there's some mistakes that you've made that you maybe would like to share that information so I don't make that mistake, I would really appreciate it. So shoot me a comment. You can find us on Facebook under Fairlanes Farms, and feel free to like that page, subscribe here. I will continue to make garden videos. Just so you know, if you come here looking for garden videos, I do fish and I do make boat videos, so that's some stuff that'll be thrown in there. So hopefully that's okay with everybody. I thought about doing just a whole separate channel, but you know what? This is who I am. I want to video the things that I find enjoyment in, and I find God everywhere. And so to spread that, I make videos about all of my life, not just little bits and pieces of it. So that's kind of the idea and the plan going forward. But I will need some help. I will need some of your expertise. Thanks for taking the time to watch this video. I really appreciate it. Subscribe and like, all that good stuff. I will try my best to document from the very beginning all the way until we are maybe, hopefully at some point in the future, quote unquote successful. If you want to know financial breakdown, if you want to know how much it costs to start everything, if you want to know the struggle that we had with the Bermuda grass and how long that took and blah, blah, blah. If you want to know any of that, let me know. Give me some ideas to make videos and I will do that, and I will give all the information out for free. I'm not going to hide behind a paywall, or some people do Patreon and blah, blah, blah. That's not me. I'm just going to teach, and I'm going to share this information with everybody, and hopefully you guys find it entertaining, and hopefully you find it useful in some area of your life. God bless you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really do appreciate it, and we will catch you on the next video.